Good evening. We'll call to order the Town of Lake Lure Town Council regular meeting Tuesday, December the 12th at 5 p.m. Welcome. Thank you all for being here. If we'd please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation. Patrick?
All right. Let us pray. Father God, we thank you for the blessing of today, the promise of a bright future for tomorrow. As we enter this holiday season, may we meet each other with humanity, grace, love, laughter, and happiness, and hope for the new year coming forward. In all things we do, let us give thanks to you. Let us lead with discernment. Let our community rise together for our future and for future generations to come. Thank you for our first responders and all the hard efforts that all of our town staff take efforts on every day to ensure that we have a beautiful place to live, work, play, and enjoy until the end of days. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. So good.
Okay.
Are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, ma'am. Since we're going to have annual board presentations, I move we combine item 6 with item 7. The liaison reports, just to go into that, so we just call that 7.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any other changes to the agenda? Then do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I'll make a motion we approve the agenda as amended by Commissioner DiOrio.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Then the agenda stands adopted as amended. We'll move on then.
Apologies.
We'll move on then to the next, item number 3, the mayor's communication. Just a couple of things, and I don't usually make this very long, as you well know. But I did want to thank everyone for your participation throughout the year. This is our last regular meeting for this year. Actually, I was thinking about this over this week, and normally at this time, we would be installing the new members of the council, because this is when they would be installed. And as everyone knows, that was extended a year because of the change in the state law regarding when municipal elections take place. And so it gave me time to just think about the fact that I am so thankful that we have such a good council, and it's been we've accomplished so much over the last number of years. And it is good to know that moving forward, everything is in place here in the management of the town, with Hank here, with the new members, Mike Dula, with all the new people who have made the town government, combined with the council. We've really been able to move forward with so many things that we've been planning for a number of years now, and we're beginning to see the fruits of it now. So I'm very thankful for that. Also, there's something that I would like to say, and that is, and this is something, and for the first time in many, many years, I was not able to attend this year, but every year on Veterans Day, and Memorial Day too, but this just recently on Veterans Day, we have a celebration of those people who have given their lives for our country and for all of us, to keep all of us safe. And we would like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Jeff Geisler, who has you will just step forward, who is so gracious, both for Veterans Day and Memorial Day, always opened up Rutherford and made us feel so welcome there and allowed us to have this celebration. We always have Veterans Day there. Thank you so very much.
On behalf of the
We will then move on to the town manager's communications. Mr. Perkins.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. First, I'd like to point out the Public Services Department had a few things to cover. They did provide the cover and step screen for the wastewater treatment plant, and it has been constructed and installed. The water tower tank grounds have undergone maintenance. This includes the fence and up to 10 feet outside of the fence. It has been mowed and the trees removed. And then lastly, I'll report that the Connex box at the Public Works shop has been cleaned out and pressure washed for Ruby Collins to utilize during the sewer project work during the upcoming drawdown. Moving to community development, they issued 31 permits for the month as compared to 35 for the month of October. This included 12 in zoning, 1 in lake structure, 1 land disturbance, and 1 vacation rental. The Z&P board reviewed the Flowering Bridges plans for the educational center, and based on the town's architectural design standards, the board made a recommendation to the Board of Adjustment that the building plans do meet the design compatibility requirements. The BOA reviewed and approved 2 variance requests for setback adjustments, including 1 that was approved for part and not entire request. Also began review process of the Flowering Bridge special use permit. This is continued on the next month. And then lastly, I'll report that they are, community development is reporting that the AT&T tower is still on go. The project is slid a little bit, but not much. They're expecting construction to start in late first quarter 2024. Moving to fire and emergency management, we had a foam demo and training at Mountain Home Fire Department and risk management team meeting at the LLCA. And then we had a woods and brush fire at Chimney Rock State Park, and then I think a lot of people probably were aware of the day of that it happened. Our department, along with others, responded to help put that fire out, and it did result during a temporary power outage with Duke Energy, but it was well maintained by both Duke Energy and our fire department. Moving forward, the police, they had only, I guess it's just that time of year, they have 1.5 hours of lake patrol hours. We had 2 officers, Corporal Aaron Collins and Reserve Officer Tommy Little. They were able to assist in the color guard during the Lake Lure Veterans Day ceremony that the mayor referenced a few minutes ago. Moving on to the Parks and Recreation, they utilized 140 volunteer hours, and they have a value of that at $2,800. They, with the Public Services Department, did a great job during the month of November installing the holiday lights. I hope everyone makes note of that as you leave the meeting this evening. And then they also completed the 2024 commercial boat model that was addressed earlier in our Marine Commission meetings. For finance, revenues and expenditure reports are provided as a separate attachments to supplemental summaries. Revenues continue to track as projected, and departments also continue to efficiently use resources in regards to individual line items and department budgets. The town continued to sustain its strong financial position with an unreconciled bank balance of approximately $10,510,605 for all funds other than special revenue funds, which is the dam fund, which still holds a balance of $16,500,000, as well as accumulated interest of $377,715 for a total balance of $16,877,715. Moving forward to communications, our communications director, Laura Creegee, had 26 news articles published on the town's website, and they were sent out to 2,076 by hyperlink. She has reported that we now have 20,592 followers on Facebook as of November of 2023. This represents an 8%, or 1,093, over the same period in 2022. She also did a great bang-up job in preparing the Veterans Day program that was attended by over 100 residents, and then also planned the lighting of the Light Up Lake Lure event, which was well received by the community. And lastly, for the manager, clerk, and admin summary, we conducted our first meeting with the architects on the fire department space needs study. I think later this month we'll have the final, probably the final meeting with the architects on that one and be nearing completion on that one. We're still in the progress of finalizing the water system management agreement with with Chimney Rock. It looks like it's going to be extended through the end of June of 2024. For better cost estimations for the contract year beginning July 1st of 2024. And then we began the implementation of fleet maintenance townwide with Enterprise Fleet Services. And then lastly, we conducted a review with staff on our engineer, Labella. They have a master plan that they're concluding for the wastewater treatment plants for the town of Lake Lure for the future. We expect the presentation to be made at the January's council work session.
Thank you very much.
Lastly, here, just to move on with some things that our project manager, Michael Badula, gave me. And this goes upon a little bit on my responsibilities for reporting back to the council. We did make a rule there that if we had any change orders to the project that was over $100,000. So I'll take a minute to go over that one. We had change order number 1, which was for $105,324. And this amended the project to a total of $7,568,984. This was for the rerouting of our existing sewer line that comes through the dam. It had to be moved because of the drain valve installation. And then for the GLS project, this is the sewer project, contractor will be putting in the new barges this Thursday at Morse Park. And then the contracting engineers are on site last week, staking locations of proposed tie-in points at Sunset Cove. And then we have engineers that will be on site next Friday on the 22nd. This is a part of the task order that was approved by council for the dam inspection. Then lastly, I'll report that we did have a work session last month in November. The only thing that was approved at that work session was the annual addendum to county service district contracts for fire. And that's it.
Thank you very much. A lot accomplished, as always, in the last month. We will then move on to our next item on our agenda, which is the public hearing. And this addresses ordinance number 23-12-12, amending the Town of Lake Lure Code of Ordinances, Chapter 36, zoning associated with alcohol regulations. Probably Mike Williams.
Evening. And I was actually talking back there, so we're on the alcohol ordinance.
Yes.
Okay. I apologize. The zoning and planning and the staff have been working on this for a long time and have made the proposal to y'all, which is basically trying to align our ordinances with the state ABC commission, filling in some blanks where we didn't really address it, and just trying to make the ordinance work for the town of Lake Lure. Feel good about that. There is one point I need to bring up. There was the definition for a hotel and motel was added in there. And what the effort was to make that consistent with the ABC commission. So we added on to the existing definition. The way it was presented to y'all originally, it looked like it was a replacement of the whole definition. So it's more than just may have restaurants and alcohol if they have a ABC permit. Other than that, staff and the board recommend that you consider approving that.
Are there any questions for Mr. Williams? Since we've talked about this a number of meetings now.
I know I had a question this weekend that was promptly responded to yesterday, so thank you.
Mike, do you want to go over that? I think you wanted to incorporate that in.
Do they have it in their package?
The hotel?
Yeah. What I gave you is the actual, the current ABC, the current ordinance addressing the definitions, hotels and motels. And we added in there language to align it with the ABC commission that allows ABC sales in conjunction with hotels, motels, and restaurants. And so it's just an addition. It wasn't clear in the proposal that was originally given to you, so that is exactly what you would be voting on. That's what we're suggesting that you vote on.
Yeah, so I think what we're talking about is the draft that has been presented and gone over and advertised. Staff is also recommending, based on the correspondence from Councilman Proctor, that we incorporate this material as well for the definitions for hotel motel.
Correct. It's an addition to the existing definition.
Definition. All right, do we need to read that, or is everyone comfortable with that?
Sounds good.
All right, thank you, Mike, very much. All right, is there anyone from the public who would like to speak at this public hearing now on this issue? All right, then are there any questions? Oh, Pat, please, I'm so sorry.
There's a couple of names ahead of me. I thought they would go.
Oh,
Well,
this is for the alcohol.
This is just for the alcohol.
Yeah,
This
just-
is not the public comment,
Okay.
but I won't forget you, do not worry. So if there's no one from the public who wishes to speak to this ordinance, is there any other questions or discussion by the council? If not, do I hear a motion to adopt this ordinance?
I make a recommendation to adopt ordinance number 23-12-12, amending the Town of Lake Lure Code of Ordinances, Chapter 36, zoning associated with alcohol regulations.
And that goes along with the late
Along
addition.
with the late
Okay, got it.
addition. Yes, yes. Thank you.
Is there a
Section
second?
3-5.
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, then ordinance number 23-12-12, along with the addition of the definition of hotels and motels, passes unanimously. We'll then move on to the combination of items 6 and 7, which is the council liaison reports and comments and the presentations. And in each case, I think that the commissioners will just defer to the person who's presenting for that particular board. I will say that Jim Walters is unable to attend tonight because of a family illness, and he did send his report, but we are going to defer his report until the next meeting in January, so that he will have an opportunity to give that report and also answer any questions that come up. So that will be in January. So we will begin then with our boards, and I can pick anyone I want to. So we'll just pick ABC first, because I love the ABC store.
So, as you know, we've had a productive year this year, the ABC store. We moved from the old location to the new location.
Who are you?
Oh, I'm Rich, and Rich Sales, I'm the chairman of the ABC board, sorry. And I'd like to thank everybody that was involved with that move. Our manager, Trent and Patricia, and a lot of you know Earl Russell, and he has unfortunately passed away, but he was super involved in all of that, and the move and everything, and he's greatly missed. Also, we just finished inventory for the end of the year, and we didn't even have to close to do it. And everything is looking really good, so in the past, we've had to close to do inventory, and we didn't have to do that this year. We also put in a new security system in the store, which has got some bugs, but we're working all those out. Our budgeting and the audits are getting much better than they have ever been, and getting better. We've also added 2 new members to our board, Esther Lusk and Trace Boswell. And both of them have been super helpful in our boards. And that's about it for me.
Do you have anybody coming up for re-up?
I
Wasn't there
think-
one person? Who was it?
Peter.
Peter.
Yes.
Right. But did he put his application
I-
back in?
He said he was going to,
Okay.
I don't know if he did or not.
Okay. I want to say something to Rich, how these guys did an incredible job moving that store. Really hardly any downtime. It was done all over weekends. Earl, who Rich mentioned, but I want to thank Rich, the board. I mean, it's a really well-oiled machine right now. I hope I'm not jinxing it. But it really is working well, and I hope you guys have been to the store. It really looks nice. Trent, the manager there, is just constantly coming up with new ideas, coming up with new ways to try to move inventory. And I think it's really been a big positive thing, so thanks.
Appreciate it.
And I was there, actually, when you were doing the inventory on Saturday, I think.
Oh,
And it was absolutely just seamless. Everybody knew exactly what they were doing. Everything looked really great. There was no interruption of business. So just what a change it really has. And just thank you all so much.
And you're
everybody
fully
for that.
staffed too, right? Ish?
ish.
Ish.
Yeah, we could use another body. We had a part-timer in there. Probably could use one more part-timer.
Okay. Dave?
Anybody else?
You interested? No.
Thank you so much. And
Thank you.
thank
Thank
you
you.
for your
Appreciate
leadership,
it.
Richard.
Yes,
We
thank you.
appreciate that. All right, well, we'll just stick with, we'll do zoning and planning next.
Hello, evening, y'all. So I'm gonna start out in my annual review of discussing a couple of
They just
things.
stop you and just ask you to give your name so that it'll go on the,
Okay, yeah, I'm Randy Nelson, I'm the chair of the
Thank you.
Planning and Zoning Board. And I'll start out by specifying a couple of things that we did not see or have, and they both are tied to new development, so that's kind of one of the fun things about being on a planning and zoning board. You review and approve new development, but we had no subdivision plats over this year, and we had no commercial site plans or architectural reviews other than two for nonprofits, and I'll talk about in a minute, but I just wanted to underscore that. We did approve some text amendments and address building permit system. Staff was seeing a lot of work that was started without a permit, and so we decided to agree to double the fees for work started without a permit. And I don't know what kind of, how many times that's been used since that was amended, but we may need to do more, I don't know. But it is addressing a problem. We established, and this is really important, we established a two-tier permit system and created a minor repair level. So if your repairs are under $5,000, your fee is $240 as opposed to $400. And the big thing is you don't need a survey and a stamped engineered architectural plan, which, saves the homeowner or developer significant costs there. We addressed temporarily moored water flotation devices and decided that I guess staff was getting sent people from Lakes and Park about permitting these. We decided that they do not need a lake structure permit. We dealt with the ABC signage issue under the sign ordinance, and got that all approved. In looking at the minutes over the year, I became aware that we were consumed with the alcohol issue. I mean, only in the way of amending it text. I mean, we spent 4 good meetings on the subject. It was like a can of worms. We got into it, and it just opened up other questions and issues and went on and on. But we did accomplish some things, I think. We provided staff enforcement direction on how to deal with a use that gets permitted and they want to sell other types of alcohol. I think we basically left it and said, well, that's an ABC issue, not a town issue, as long as they're legally permitted. We cleaned up inconsistencies in the ordinance. We added some definitions, restaurant, hotel, bar, so on. And the whole effort was meant to conform to the state rules for alcohol consumption and use and sales. Under architectural review, we reviewed 2 buildings, the Hickory Nut Gorge Outreach Storage Building and the Education Center at Flowering Bridge twice. We had a issue of raising chickens into town. Currently, that's prohibited. Had some people that wanted to do that, and we met on it a couple times, and I think maybe y'all have discussed it. We have no conclusive decision on that, and I don't know where that's going from here, maybe into next year. For next year's goals, I think we're going to get into the sign ordinance and try to streamline some things and simplify that. Simplify it, maybe, but at least make them more clear. And we need to start looking at 2027 comprehensive plan and getting prepared for redoing that. Our board composition is 5 members, all male, all white. 1 member's term, I say that to mean that in the future, we may be looking at some diversity there. But there's only 1 member up for reappointment next year, Mac Hillebush, and I think he's expressed an interest in reapplying. I don't know, do we have his application yet?
Not yet.
Okay, well, we'll meet Tuesday, so we'll discuss that with them, but that's it. Any questions?
Well, first of all, I'd just compliment you. That is a huge amount of work that you all have done, and I think, really indicative of the way all of the boards have become better defined in what they do, so that they both have a better sense of what it is you're supposed to be accomplished, but also clarifying the ordinances, because heretofore it was impossible to enforce things because it just wasn't really clear what some of the ordinances were. So I just have seen such a great change, but I know there's a tremendous amount of work, and unfortunately, I think it's just probably gonna get more and more moving forward,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
You might wanna put that as you're trying to attract people, but, any
Okay.
other questions for,
Yeah,
Randy?
Madam Mayor, I have one. So Randy, upcoming, the comprehensive plan 2027, that's gonna be a huge undertaking, right? And so I would say that the best, probably one of the things to consider for an approach is do it in pieces, and then,
I like that.
yeah.
Depends on what the pieces are, if we can decide on what those should be, but, I mean, it is 2027, so it is.
Yeah, so we have a
3
little
years
bit to look
away.
at it, yeah.
But, yeah, we really need to look at the plan, and just see how valid the existing plan is.
Right,
And, I mean,
right.
that's just a good start. That's what we wanna do next year.
Right.
Is review it in terms of what's laying on the ground and what zoning doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
You know?
and all good, and we need to start somewhere. I mean, we can't,
Yeah, I know.
you can't just look at it and say it's an enormous task and we won't start. We need to start. The other thing I would ask, and I briefly mentioned to you before, is part of that comprehensive plan, what we really need to take a look at are and remind me, town manager, how many town parcels do we have? Separate parcels of land?
I couldn't tell you right off the top of my
Upwards of
head.
100,
Yeah.
I think, right?
Yeah, it's like
Yeah, it's like 100, all right?
Oh,
so-
you're talking about town-owned.
Town
Yeah, town-owned,
Every
town-
bit of that, yeah.
Yeah, about 100, something like that. And so, let's look at that too, all right? Those are ignored parcels
Yeah,
that are
that's-
just kind of sitting there. And I think that would be a great thing to incorporate in the comprehensive plan, so what we're gonna do with it, so.
Okay.
So we have assets, and we've talked just a
Yeah.
little bit about the town-owned assets that are sitting out there that we need to, and with Hank's help, and identify what we can do with them can we do anything? Is there anything, are they worth anything? But I want to thank you and the board.
Yeah.
We had, again, the alcohol thing seemed to really develop a mind of its own.
Yeah.
I've never seen a rabbit hole like the state ABC commission. Every click was down another hole. And it came up with something new, conversations with lawyers there. But we got it. I think we finally have it. And I think it actually was easier at the very end than we probably,
Yeah,
we probably made it a little harder than we
I was
needed.
amazed at the end of how much we didn't know.
Yeah, I was surprised too, so. But yeah, thank you guys and,
Well, the board, you know, that's not a lot of product, but there was just a lot of discussion that went into every issue. My wife looked at this, she says, chickens and alcohol, is that really what y'all talking about?
they're the same.
There you go.
But
All right.
thank you.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
Randy.
much, Randy. So that is our last board presentation. As I mentioned, Jim will at our next regular meeting. Oh,
Yeah, you got BOA.
I guess he is. I don't know.
I'm sorry, I was voted down on that. Please forgive me, Greg. I was told you were not going to be. Story of my life. Reporting. The story of your life. Well, it should not be, so we welcome you up here.
Thank you.
Board of Appeals.
Hello, I'm Greg Gardner, Chair of the Lake Lure Board of Adjustment and Lake Structures Appeals Board. I'm going to give a little background on those. The Board of Adjustment hears and decides upon appeals from any decision, orders, or determination made by the zoning administrator, Community Development Department, in interpreting and enforcing zoning regulations. The Board of Adjustment also approves special conditional use permits and grants variances in specific cases from the provisions of the zoning regulations. The Lake Structure Appeals Board is authorized to grant variances in specific cases from the dimensional and structural guidelines for lake structures such as piers, dock, boathouse, seawall, etc., as set forth in the town code. The board consists of 5 regular and 3 alternate members appointed for staggered 3-year terms. First, I would like to thank the board members for their service to the town, and they are Neil Gurney, who serves as vice chair, Melvin Owensby, Al Joyner, Wynn Hardy, who will be resigning March 1st, 2024, upon completion of his terms to vigorously pursue retirement. We also have board alternates, Kimberly Sales, Mark Winfelt, and Rick Spruill, who has resigned from the board for personal reasons. A special thanks to Council Liaison Dave Diorio, who provides guidance to our board, as well as Michael Williams, Rick Carpenter, and Kimberly Martin from the Community Development Department, and of course, Olivia Stuman, Town Clerk. We will have 2 vacancies to fill on the boards and encourage residents who have a desire to serve to submit applications, which can be found on the town website, and you can submit those to Olivia Stuman, the town clerk, as I mentioned before. So as Lake Lure continues to grow, there has been a turnover of many properties as well as new construction. The Board of Adjustment has seen a 33% increase in variance requests over 2022. So the Board of Adjustment heard 20 variance cases and 2 special use permit application reviews for commercial buildings. Randy referred to both of those. 15 variance cases were granted, 1 was denied, and 1 was partially approved. 3 cases were either continued or not rescheduled due to changes in the permit application, eliminating the need for a variance request. One of the special use permits was approved for commercial use storage building. The second has been continued to an upcoming meeting. That's the Flowering Bridge building. The board also reviewed 2 text amendments that were being sent to or approved by zoning and planning. And the Lake Structure Appeals Board heard 5 cases, of which all 5 requests were approved. We had 2 text amendment reviews and reviewed 2 developing issues, again, that Randy referred to, like roll-up rafts, etc. We look forward to continuing to serve the town and its residents in 2024. Thank you.
Thank you. Don't go away, but any questions? Well, thank you for all you do, because I know that can be a trying board to be on, so.
You know,
Have you gotten some application, are there some applications for that board? Good. Okay, just to remind everybody, it is still open, anyone who would like to apply to a board. One of the reasons we wanted everybody to present is so that everybody would have a better understanding of what the boards actually do, because in the past, I think some people signed up for boards having no earthly idea what it was they were gonna be expected to do. And, you know, this is not a non-time consuming venture when you sign up for one of these boards, and particularly now that there's so much more, the board is so much more aware of what their mission is and what their charge is as a board. So thank you very, very much. We
Sure.
appreciate everything.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Craig.
And that concludes our presentations for the annual board reports and the council liaison report and comments, which were combined. We'll now move on to our next item on the agenda, which is public comment. And the first person who is on is Kimberly Sales. And when you come up, if you will please remember that you're limited to 3 minutes. If you need a little help, if you turn that right there, that's 3 minutes. And also state your name and your address for our record.
Hi, I'm Kimberly Sales, 122 Harris Road, Lake Lure. I started to inquire things personally and then thought I better back up and do it in the official capacity, because it would be like a business neighbor to business neighbor rift. And I don't want to, cause trouble or anything, but during the season, I was driving by Geneva a lot and seeing a RV in the front parking lot, and that seemed to just continually stay there and not go away. And so I was just wondering, is it gonna be moved to the back? Is it gonna be there next year? I just feel like we're a small town, and, Southerners sometimes get a reputation of having yard jewelry. And I just wanted to keep our community looking professional. Even though we're small, we should still look clean and professional. And I think we drive by it so much we don't notice it anymore, but my eye is always to how do we present ourselves to the tourists? So that's it.
Thank you
I'll
very
just say this,
much.
because council won't make any comments on this one too. Noted, and we'll check on it. Someone
right,
will get
thank
back
you.
with you.
Thank you, and thank you for bringing it to our attention.
To next season and
We appreciate
Thanks,
that.
Ken.
Thank you
Thank you.
very much. And it is very hard to read this. It is, as best as I can discern, it is Scott. Perhaps the next person who signed up, it's very hard to read what's on here.
Oh, I am so sorry, ma'am. My name is Scott Carter. I have nothing to say.
Oh, well, that's good, because I can't read your name then.
Hi, Scott Carter. Hi.
You thought there was a prize or
Well,
something
we're,
at the end.
yes.
That's right. You get a raffle. We can get it.
Have a nice have a cookie over there.
There you go. All right, then we will move to Pat Beatty.
My name's Pat Beatty, 2153 Memorial Highway. The time has come to have another Duke meeting. After 11 outages this year, we have to come to a resolution. The problem's bigger than us. I think it requires some state, Department of Labor, and us to figure out what we can do to decrease the number of outages. We've had 11 this year, at least, that I've been involved in, and that's too many. I know the last one was down in a valley, hard to get to and all that, but there's a lot of property along the highway that has dead trees. The hills aren't being cut back, ditching and all that. So we all know at least I think the solution is put them under the ground, but it's not gonna happen. But what if? What if we could find funds? What if we could figure out a way with Duke going to the state and working with us to find a better resolution for all our wires? We don't need any more cable wires up on our poles. I think all the infrastructure money maybe's out now, so we don't have to have 6 cable companies trying to sell here for our town. But I just think it's time to talk to Duke again as a
Thank
town.
you. And that's
Yeah.
something that we talked about earlier, that we are gonna try to get together and have a community forum with Duke, so that we can talk about what their plans are, what we can do, if anything, to resolve it. So
Yeah.
thank you for bringing that up, and that is definitely on our agenda. Laura and I are looking for an opportunity to set that up and have everybody in the
Mayor,
community come.
I've already had a conversation with Craig DeBrew about that, so he's wanting us to get back with him on that to set things up.
Perfect,
Okay.
perfect. We look forward to that. I think the next two people on here, I know it's hard to know whether this is just a sign-in sheet or public comment, but I think the other two are scratched out on here. So is there anyone else who did not sign up who would like to make a public comment? then thank you all for sharing your thoughts with us. We appreciate that as always. We will move on then to the next item on our agenda, which is the consent agenda. Having had an opportunity to review the consent agenda, are there any edits to the consent agenda?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as
Second.
presented.
All in favor?
Aye.
Then the consent agenda stands approved as posted. We'll then move on to unfinished business. We have two items. The first item A, consideration of proposals for the lease of the 2654 Memorial Highway, former ABC store property, and I'll defer to you, Mr. Perkins.
Okay, I think everybody knows that we've been, had the building that was formerly the ABC store out there with a RFP since, I guess it was late July. And at one point, the height of it, I had 4 proposals for the reuse of that building. We're now down to 2 proposers for that. That has been discussed numerous times at work sessions, with iterations coming a few times themselves. So this evening, the council has before it the task of deciding which of these proposals is going to move forward with negotiations for a lease with the town of Lake Lure. We've got one proposal with Lake Lure Tours, or KML Investments, and then we have another proposal that is with Paul Brock and Wade Opliger. So the material is within the packet that we have, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions about these.
So we have discussed this at length, of course, but certainly open to a discussion. Are there any questions by any members of the council? I think we have all the information in your packet. You've had an opportunity to look at it. We are down to just 2, as Mr. Perkins said.
Yes, ma'am.
And there is a grid, which probably makes it easier to compare.
So I know that we asked, one of the proposals from Paul Brock and Wade Opliger had requested the construction of a deck on the back of the building. Do we have a cost for that yet?
No, sir, we don't.
So we still don't know how much that's gonna cost.
That's correct.
We've got an estimate, and we had anticipated working with you guys to see what worked, and of course, we talked to Mike Williams about it, but we've got an estimate on that, so. But it really depends on what you guys will allow, what size you guys want, since it's ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important we know how much it's gonna cost before we do something, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so if this goes forward on that side, I think the deck just comes off until we figure out what it costs.
All right.
We're looking at probably, $5,000. But that's certainly something.
Yeah, I mean, if that's, yeah, I mean, I guess we could set a number and say that's it.
Well, I
Right.
think you just have to take it off if there's been no.
If it's not on here, it can't be, we
No.
can't use it, so.
So you just have to remove that from the proposal. Any other questions or discussion?
Well, I do know at the last Park and Rec meeting, it was reiterated to keep, they used the word clutter, the number of things you can see from the road to a minimum.
I also think we have to keep in mind that that parking lot is not, it's a partially dedicated parking spaces for the building, but that the other side of the whole parking lot is not for one specific building or overflow from other restaurants in the area, or it's people come to the park, they come during the weekends and they come hang out at the park, they come to put their their non-motorized in at the ramp. So we don't want it to be where people show up and they don't have any room to do anything. So I think we have to make sure that gets segregated somehow, or at least we know how to make that. Does that sound clear? It doesn't sound clear to me.
Sounds clear to me, but.
We can't make that parking lot it's gotta be for everybody, except for the dedicated spaces that are set for that building itself.
I have a question on Wade and Paul and your proposal. So what we're trying to do here is give the green light to the town manager to go into negotiations. Okay, so here's my question. Are we talking about 2 leases? Are we talking about one LLC that's gonna do the whole lease and then subcontract? How are we creating this instrument?
I think we had anticipated the one LLC, which would be us, and then potentially a sublease. Obviously Wade's group is gonna pay, the concessions on the stuff that they do. But I think we had, anticipated doing that with existing LLC or forming a new one. But, you know, we're open to suggestions. As we said before, we think our two businesses are very complementary and very symbiotic. So, you know, it's that structure. You would be negotiating with us as a group, but we would probably sign a contract with one of us, which would be us.
Okay, so a single instrument, one LLC that's doing that. And as far as I can see, the 2 subs would be the Outdoor Collective and then Wade's operation
Yes.
for the rowing. Those would be, are there any other parties involved?
Any other questions? I think we all agree we've gotten to a point, and Paul brought this up last time, but everybody agrees, we have to, this has to come to an end. We've been talking about this now for a year.
Yeah.
So I think that all the information that is available is available.
Yeah,
So-
and if I could go ahead and I'll make one thing clear for those of you that have not been a part of the conversation at length for it. The reason, the questions that you've heard from the council related to one of the proposals is, the Lake Lore Tours and KML is just for the building itself. The one with Mr. Brock and Mr. Oplinger is sort of a 2-parter. It's the building and it's a concession agreement with sculling and rowing on the backside, outside of the property. So any questions you've got that have been fielded for the council this evening just has to be pertaining to that detail related to the Brock and Oplinger proposal.
Did you want to feel like you needed to elaborate anything more than what you said about Parks and Recs? Everybody got that?
Well, I'm curious on the non-motorized boat process, is that gonna be not just what's there now, the rowing and that rowing club and those things? How much of the property is gonna be delineated just for renting the non-motorized craft? Does that make sense?
She's relaying that question away.
Okay.
The same space, we're not changing any of the usage space other than what we are already.
Okay, but there'll be more boats there for rental, is that correct?
Can you talk louder? He said,
So, I think will there be other vessels for rent? That's what I thought I heard.
The proposal there is we would have some structures that would come in, that would have racking in there, and they would be, basically fit into where we are, in the same kind of space we're in right now, essentially. If you look where the existing stationary rack is in the trailer, if those became fixed supports, kind of a H-frame, so that the boats will like into that's the plan. But it really doesn't occupy any different space than what we have now at this point.
But Wade, I think if I could summarize for Mr. Proctor, I think what he's asking is, we know what's down there now, and that's going to be for rent, those things. Is there any other vessels other than what's there now that is going to be added for rental in the future?
I'm sorry, it's right here, but yeah.
Okay.
it would be things for rent, so it would be kayaks and small, small craft. So, like
Okay.
what you see around already, non-motorized. The rowing boats that we would rent are, one model is basically it's a
these boats are designed so that if you don't have to go out with the whole crew and row, you can just, it's a beginner, like a beginner, almost trainer boat.
But you're also looking at renting just everyday kayaks,
I-
like you have down at Sunken Buffalo.
Yeah, well,
Or we have at the,
we would do.
beach
we
now.
talked about that some. I think what we plan on doing at least is the rowers. In terms of, we don't know, I'm not sure what the limitations are on what you can do, but I think I told you guys last time, we want that to look vibrant. We don't want it to look tacky. We don't want it to look overdone. And we're certainly, I think that's our goal. We want it to look like a place where something's happening, but also, doesn't look like a, outdoor camp.
Any other questions or discussion?
Patrick?
We need to
Thoughts?
move forward.
Yeah, from the fiscal perspective, a 5-year contract, just from the basic line item, 5-year contract bodes better for long-term planning for a project like that. And then a 2-year, Wade's proposal with the 5-year initial commitment provides for a more long-term sustainable solution for that property from the outset as the property itself, with some future development opportunities from my perspective.
What Patrick is
Oh,
saying
still
is
can.
that the Brock and Opliger has a initial 5-year
5-year.
term with one 5-year renewal, as opposed to the other proposal that
2-year.
has one 2-year, followed by 4 consecutive 2-year terms. In both cases, the maximum term will be no longer than 10 years.
Yeah, which is statute for those.
Anything else? Any comments or questions?
For Wade, the dock area that you need, now, one of the things that we know in the near term is that the boathouse down there will be used for public safety for the near term. Now, we could discuss and rehome those boats or whatever for later. So you've considered that in the business proposal. And so it's all the other dock area, with the exception of the boathouse, that you're looking at for improvements on both sides?
Well, in the conversation, my presumption was it's actually the farther side.
Yeah,
Because the other side still is a fairly active slip, it seems to be.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
more activity by boats coming in and out, and
Okay.
I guess the one we see there a lot is the refuge collector boat. He goes out and picks up when we get a bunch of stuff in the lake.
Right.
It seems like that's the one that shows up, so. I'm really,
yeah, that can be pulled out. So you're gonna focus on the far side of the boathouse?
yeah, I mean, really, it's really the dilapidated area, for lack of a better explanation. It's sort of ignored anyway right now, it seems like.
But that's not gonna mess up our public safety being there and all that kind of stuff, is it? Because I'm trying to picture that in my head. When you say far side of the boathouse, because when I look on here,
Towards the isthmus of the Elizabeth Point, kind of.
right, okay.
Yeah,
I mean, you want a rowing dock that's low, that can be accessed from Skulls. Right, that's your main goal, right?
Well, I think it would
They have
be
to have permits.
advantageous to anybody coming to use the, use the
Sure.
facility to be able to launch like that, rather than, the water launch has a lot of issues to it. We talked about it's being a little slippery, and this time of year, it's cold.
I don't know why you're out there anyway.
Well, they say it's good for you, they say it gets your endorphins going, right?
Okay.
So I think some of the conversation the last time we met on this was at the working meeting and talked about this, was the fact that one of the proposals is just for the building itself, and the other proposal is for the building and all the adjacent land. And so there was the opportunity to separate those two things, and by virtue of what the proposals are for. I know we discussed that at the last meeting too, whether or not that was a viable proposition for everybody who had made a proposal. So I think that's one thing that we need to consider as we move forward, because that would make a difference in what our decision was, if we were going to
So I know,
accept one.
so saying that, I think it seems clear at this point, it needs to be a combined, the rowing, or the boats and the building need to be together, correct?
According to what?
Yeah,
to Paul Brock.
according to this, right, because we talked about, I think we talked about splitting it up, but we never came to a conclusion to actually split it up.
Well, one of the proposals is just for that. So,
But you're all together though, correct? Am I confused?
you're talking about Paul and Wade's,
Correct.
okay, just their proposal.
That's one.
What I'm saying is the other proposal is just for the building.
That's correct. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Right.
I didn't realize you
Yeah,
were talking
so
about.
I'm saying that's
I
kind of apples
apologize.
and
Yes,
oranges
yes,
here
yes.
is what we're talking about.
Absolutely, right.
So
Right.
there's the difference of whether we separate those two things and accept a proposal, which I think Jim had spoken to at the last meeting, that seemed to be reasonable, or a reasonable proposal. And so, just because we're gonna have to make a decision here about where we're gonna go forward, we're just ad nauseum and infinitum, we're gonna keep discussing this, right, and never come to a conclusion. So I think, that involved in, when the council makes a decision, you're gonna have to make that is a function of the decision of which proposal you take. Now, I think the discussion at the last meeting was that it was possible, as Paul said, that they could move forward with their plans that were outside the building, without the building. That was my understanding, that though they preferred it to be together, but they could move forward with that, and that could be a separate decision. So I don't know if that's still an option.
I'll go back to what we talked about last time. I mean, we can do whatever structure that fits the town's needs. I mean, Mike and I discussed the fact that if we build a deck, you may have a setback issue, because that's two distinct parcels of property there. It might be wise to combine those properties just from that doesn't have anything to do with us, but it might be wise to do that. But I think the bigger question is, what kind of business do you want to have in there? And I think, what I would say again is, I think we offer the vitality and the creativity to bring this home. We want to work together because we think it's more than just the outdoor part of our store and the coffee and the expanded lines, and we think what everything comes down to is, like, for instance, I think Wade talked about it last time, have a fishing guide there, have someone that can come in and do demonstrations on fly fishing. That's how our stuff works together. Plus, we're friends, and we know,
I
we
didn't
think
see.
we can do this together. So that's, however you want to slice it up, I think, I would not want it, if you suddenly said, well, look, you guys can have a building and Wade that can do the crew, that would be a horrible, horrible outcome, in my opinion.
Okay.
That's why we're together. on
Right,
this.
and I was just mentioning that the two proposals were different with respect to that.
Right.
So that we keep
Right,
that in mind.
sure.
I was not really, so just, that's the point there. But the point is, we have to make a decision.
Sure.
So, any other discussion?
You want to say anything, Tim?
Yeah, I just got one thing to say.
I didn't recognize you back there. Sorry.
This whole thing, Paul's the one that come here and start with it and asked me about the man on this subject. And we probably know as much about this as you do. And I've got a lot invested in this town. I worked here a long time. And you're the reason I'm up here. You come to me and said, we need to do business in here.
I did say that.
You did do it.
And then, the next thing I knew, you had kind of gone in a different direction.
No, you asked me to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I did.
I didn't know.
Oh, I did. I suggested, I
So Tim, could you talk about that a little bit more? How would this, I know Mill Spring, love your shop down there. Is this a subset of that? I mean, what's your vision? Is it gonna be some landscaping stuff there too, or what?
No, I don't want nothing outside, I'm just
Okay.
bring like grass seed and, bird feed and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
You know, they're mostly fishing, hunting, fishing stuff,
Okay.
and, you know, we do.
How about boat supplies? Is that part of it too? Boating supply, fishing boat supplies?
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna have stuff like that, a lot of stuff. Live bait, won't have live bait for us.
Okay.
Yeah, we got all the distributors, I mean, we are carrying all this stuff.
Yeah.
Tube, float, rope, you know, everything for boat. And we are carrying all this stuff, so.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Is this part with Lake Lord Tours, or are we talking about three different proposals?
No.
I'm with George.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
thank you.
because George, I thought to start with, he was gonna get the dock part of it all, and I was gonna smoke. And so all this has got split up into different things, so I'm not sure.
There are just two proposals now. The other proposal that had been offered previously, it's not active anymore, so there are two proposals left. You'll have to make a decision.
So, there's a lot of hemming and hawing going on because most of us, I can speak for myself, are friends with all of them. They're practically the same. I'm at a loss, frankly.
Well, I think, I don't disagree with you, this is a small town, and so there's no way in any situation that we're in this town where everybody doesn't know everybody and have empathy for those people, and all of us want the same thing for Lake Lure, which is the good of the community. So I think that, the council is really charged with making the most prudent, both financial and, that's certainly one part of it, decision for the town. And also with respect to as well as we can discern, what is in the best sense of what helps our community grow. So, it has nothing, as Jim pointed out, and I appreciate his friendship and everyone's friendship with all the parties, but, that has to be put aside, obviously, and it has to be made on just a more objective, basis. And that was one of the reasons that we asked Olivia to make this spreadsheet, if you will, or legend, that sort of made it easier to boil all the information down to compare it. But the reality is, I feel like we have discussed this beyond the point of discussing it anymore, although we're very happy that, Tim, you were here tonight, so people had an opportunity to meet you, so I appreciate your coming. But I think that the time has come when we simply have to make a discussion. We moved, which we talked earlier today, we moved the ABC store to a much better place for it, as far as I'm concerned, not just for a better use for that building, but also it seems doing marvelously where it is now. So that frees up that building for another purpose. And so we've had, over a year now to look at what would be the highest and best use and what would benefit the town the most. So I think everybody, I hope that we all, and I know we all will, take this in the vein of just a business decision. So I think that, we are, to discuss this any further, I just do not see any more information that is available. Do any of you know of any information you don't have?
Well,
I don't think so.
Then, I think we're at the point where we simply we have to make a decision.
one proposal is really easy. It's a certain amount per month for a building. The other proposal is less per month for a building, but concession, but we don't know, that's just a total unknown. So, and unknowns are, for me, tough to deal with. But it is something, so I don't,
One's 5 and one's 2
right.
years.
That doesn't bother me. We have,
Me neither.
the person with 2-year term has been dealing with the town for
A long time.
20 years, I would say.
Of course.
So, are we ready to make a motion?
I'm not, but I'll listen to one.
I feel as though, difficult though it is, and I think Paul expressed expressed it last time too. I mean, from the standpoint of our seasons and wanting to go into the next year, and whomever has that property needs to be able to prepare for the next season, we need to make a decision.
At our work session, if I could just lend some sort of comment to it. Part of my recommendation, since it is complicated, there's a lot to take in with these proposals, is that the building itself is probably the anchor and the linchpin of the entire piece there. Concentrate on what the use of the building is first, and then concentrate what, if anything, is gonna happen outside the building after that.
And the one does not preclude something, so if, in that vein, and we had talked about that earlier, if a proposal were accepted just for the building, that does not preclude use or development of that other property that is remaining for other uses, other than just the building. And so that is something that could be determined at a later date, if the council wanted to, continue with that. But the reality is, we have to make a decision.
I just suggested that is to make it more simple than trying to crack the entire nut this evening.
We can table this again.
Can I just add a comment to add to the things that you had mentioned, Madam Mayor, about things to consider? The one thing that was not added to that is a very visible spot in our town. And what is going to look the best as people drive by and come into the town? And I think that needs to be considered too.
Well, I think that was what Jim brought up, that the Parks and Recs Board had discussed at their last meeting, and that they were very concerned, which we are all concerned, that that property there that is so visible not become, look like, well, it becomes something that you would want people to see as they come in, and that was a concern of theirs. It really was. And so, you know, I think that has already been verbalized, thank you for bringing it up again, but I think that is one of the big considerations there, that we don't want it to look like Tent City or whatever else. I mean, that's something that is high on everyone's mind. So I think that is something, irrespective of who was using that property, that is something that would be agreed upon and enforced, to be honest with you. So whoever was doing it, we would be sure that that was within the limits of both the town ordinances and community development. So that's one thing I think we're all very dedicated to. It came up originally, which was kind of not germane, it turned out to be with the food trucks. And then that morphed into other things. All those things, I think everybody's well aware of the fact that we don't want that to look like a circus out there, so. All right, so,
Well, I think zoning and planning would have to have some input too on some of that. I know
Absolutely.
Some of these buildings we're talking about adding or whatever, somebody's gonna have input on
Right.
that too.
I just wanted to say, I don't want it to turn into Gatlinburg where it's just a bunch of stores. And I think we have a hardware store past Ingles, and then we have a lovely hardware store in Mills River or Mill Springs. And to bring a similar store in this area, I feel is overkill. And the idea of the outdoor rowing and adventurous type of thing keeps our community, to keep it an outdoor, low-key, quiet town. You know, it shows activities you can do outdoors, and that's what we're trying to capture in this area, not just another store.
well, I would have to say, and my understanding is not that this would be a hardware store. So I think we do have to clarify that. I understand, I love the hardware store, what, Red Mountain, is that what it is? They have everything I need there, absolutely. But that is not the store that I understand that Mr. Edwards is talking about. I believe, unless I misunderstand it, that somewhat of the purpose of the two buildings, well, it was to promote outdoor activities, hunting, fishing. I'm at a loss for what there is besides hunting and fishing, hiking, boating, all those types of things. So I think that would mischaracterize it to say it was gonna be another hardware store, so.
We sell a lot of clothes and different things, people use sunglasses and all that kind of stuff, people use, bait, people use
So do I hear, is there a motion from the council? Because we're gonna have to move on if we don't and postpone it. I don't know that it'll be any better at another meeting. I think we have to make a decision. If there's no more information that we can get, then we have to make a decision.
There's been a groundswell of community support and emails for each proposal. I've deliberated a lot and looked at these, and as a forward-thinking vision, they talked about the 2027 comprehensive plan. It's gonna be coming up. I make recommend a motion to authorize proposal with Wade, Paul, and Kara Brock.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I could abstain, but that'd be an aye, so I'll say aye.
Then the proposal passes unanimously. For Wade Opplinger and Leslie Rowland, Lakewood Rowing Club, Paul and Clara Brock. I think that's enough on everyone that's listed there.
Now, wait, just to be clear, what we approved is the green light to go into negotiations with the town manager. We still want to approve the instrument at the other
Right.
end with all the
Correct.
details, right?
That's right.
There's
It's just negotiations.
a lot to unpack in this thing.
This,
so-
this meeting was just determine which proposal was going to move forward, and there's a lot of detail to come forward after this.
All right.
All right.
Then we will move on to our next item. The next item is ordinance number 23-12-12A, amending the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 4, Animals to allow chickens.
We're talking chicken.
Mike Williams. Thank you for coming up again.
Popular man tonight.
Not that you had a choice.
This is another one that has been all around the block. And there was a proposal from the community to allow chickens, as y'all know. It's came to town council, you sent it back to the zoning and planning board. They worked it to death on there. Never really came up with parameters, but felt like it would be possible to have chickens in some areas. Came back to y'all. And so at that point, I gave a proposal. I think you got from me a staff recommendation, which was two parts. The recommendation we made was, we're fine with it staying exactly the way it is. It hasn't been a big issue. There's a lot of people that want it, and there's a lot of people that don't want it. And the ones that want it are in disagreement with the ones that don't, and vice versa. The other half of our recommendation was that if it was to move forward, and if council was inclined to consider the chickens, that it be limited to 4 hens. It would have to have some pretty good parameters. We're concerned about the lake. We included 100 foot from, 75 feet from the water, 100 feet from any other residence or a church or business, and 50 foot from any property line. The rest of it is just like the rest of the ordinance where, horses and ponies are allowed and have been for a while in particular areas. It would come down to keeping it clean and then no free ranging of chickens. So that would be, if the decision was going to be to include chickens, to allow chickens, to do it with those kind of parameters. I originally had sent it in with the requirement of annual registration fee, and it may be a good idea. I'm a little bit concerned about how we would implement that. We're pretty busy as it is. I don't know that I want to add that on top of it. I think it would have to be enforced by complaints. So that would be the recommendation that we have made.
I'm a little confused, okay, so if we're going, it says to adopt or reject this ordinance, doesn't this have to be a public hearing? If we're gonna adopt the ordinance?
No.
This is not the zoning.
Oh, it's not a zoning, it's a regulation?
Yeah.
It's just a, yeah, it's a
Okay.
movement
Yeah.
of police power, general ordinance.
All right, so no public hearing required. So we can actually accept or reject this now?
Yes.
Okay.
So I think we have discussed this at length. Are there any other questions for Mr. Williams? If not, we need to go ahead and
So Mike, did you add
make a
permit,
decision.
did you add permit in here and a fee, a permit fee?
We had it in that recommendation, you know,
Was that in here? I can't.
that's in there. It's at the end of it.
I wasn't gonna try to read all the way through it, but
There's actually there's a typo
I
in
did
there too. It says
earlier.
registration fee,
I
but
remember
it's,
us talking about it.
but I'm comfortable with not including that. Just from the,
No, I
just
mean,
from the
if-
logistics
If
of,
we approve it, I think we should. I
Okay.
think there should be a permit and there should be a fee. And there all should, you know, as I said in our last meeting, if it goes through, you know, we do have the ability to pull this anytime we want, right? And so if it turns out that it's not, that it turns out to be a really bad thing, then we can stop it. But I, you know, I was looking at a lot of regulations for other municipalities that, you know, they all have something. And I don't know that there's been a lot of problems. We do live on a lake, we have a watershed to protect, which is huge. So, but I think, to me, if you have complaints, if it were to pass and you have complaints, I think, it's almost like a one strike. You know, like if we have to come out there, then if we come back again, you lose your permit and your chickens are gone.
I just, the only thing I'm all for enforcement of permits if we have it, but I mean, who's gonna enforce it? I think you said your department does not have the bandwidth to do this, right?
we can respond to complaints. We're not gonna be chicken police riding around looking for chicken
Yeah,
feathers.
I mean, if we have ordinances and we make it, we gotta find the people to make it happen, right? You can't just say we can't do it.
To be, I will tell you, this is difficult, Jim, this is very difficult, because I know I'm finding there's more people than I was aware that have chickens out there. And, right now, they have chickens and they have chickens that are not legal in the town of Lake Lure. And that's an issue.
As a point of discussion, I'm on the exact opposite side of this issue, so I don't think it's a smart thing to do to allow chickens in for this reason. I'll explain exactly. So we are a resort community. I've always been a resort community. We have an obligation to protect the environment, to take care of the people that live on the lake. We are not a farm community. We're different because the ecosystem is a very fragile system. We have a lot of wild animals that have been encroaching, particularly since the fire, when our number of bears in Lake Lure has quadrupled in number. So it's really a loss to me why we'd want to introduce an ordinance that allows chickens, even though bears may not go directly after chickens, but having fowl close to the lake where animals are coming in, to me, that would just make that problem much more worse. And it's already bad as it is right now. So to me, to introduce that ordinance and open that up with that unknown, and then the policing requirement is beyond the pale. So I'm not for it. I think we should reject the ordinance.
And if I may, I will reiterate that staff recommendation and my recommendation was that we leave it as it is.
Yeah, right.
Without making the change.
Right.
But if the change is gonna happen, we need to have parameters. We need to have those buffers away from the lake, away from somebody else.
No, I'm with you,
Right,
I'm with you,
right,
Mike. And I see the other side of this. My position is not to open that door to allow that in.
Randy?
So, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to make it clear that the planning and zoning board did not
Make a recommendation.
make a recommendation.
Correct. Yeah.
That we, couldn't decide, it's that we just never got really around
Right.
to it. And
We discussed it at our last working session about what the zoning and planning board came up with.
Right.
Yep, yep.
I think, once again, we have all the information we probably need, right? We
What were
just
you gonna
need
say,
a
Jim?
Decision.
Well, first of all, I think with the parameters that the zoning planning board did come up with, would meet the, any concerns that you have for degradation of property surrounding. I have had a chance to talk to some other zoning administrators in other towns, and they've had no trouble whatsoever with their chickens. And those are mountain towns with streams and, I don't know about a lake, but I mean, I grew up in Lake Lure when Henry Rainey was on the town council, and he had chickens down the street from me. So I personally don't see anything wrong with it and think it would be something that if you meet the parameters, should be allowed.
Do I hear a motion then?
Okay. I make a motion, we approve ordinance number 23-12-12A, as presented.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye. Nay.
All right. Then ordinance number 23-12-12A, amending the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 4, Animal to allow chickens, passes 3-1.
Michael, this will, we have to, I guess we have to adjust permit fees, et cetera. One strike, you're out. If we don't like this, we pull it. Sorry?
Okay, y'all wanna take a 5-minute break for new business?
Sure.
We'll take a 5-minute break before we start the new business, since we're about an hour and a half into it. Not just a 5-minute though.